Miku is the world-renowned virtual singer that's practically everywhere these days. From her niche beginnings on Niku Niku Doga to her worldwide popularity through super famous songs and collaborations with massive games like Fortnite and Rocket League, she's constantly rising in popularity. But at the end of the day, she's a computer program. More specifically, she's a voice bank for the vocal synthesis program Vocaloid. And like any good piece of software, she's gonna get updated. The way this is done for Miku is through new additions of the voice bank for new versions of Vocaloid, and Miku can sound more realistic depending on the version you're using. Except that one. And because she's a program that's depicted with an anime avatar, each new update will have to change her design slightly. Today I will be ranking every design for an official Miku voice bank that has been made. This will be counting variants with different designs, such as Append, V3 English, and V4X Chinese. The only variant I won't count is V4X English, since it doesn't change her design or the art style at all. This video is just my opinion on these designs, and if you disagree, that's totally fine. I like pretty much every officially licensed Miku design to some extent because Miku, so I'll have to get pretty nitpicky in my rankings. Miku V2 is the very first version of Miku, and this specific rendition would become an icon in its own right. This first iteration was designed and illustrated by Kei, who has done work for a multitude of Miku events and the Project Diva series, as well as artwork for some Toku music and hardcore Tano C. His design for Miku would go on to be his most famous contribution. Kei's art style has changed a lot over the years, and this is definitely one of his older pieces. Despite this, he did an excellent job. The pose is iconic, and perfectly represents Miku as the world-renowned diva she is, all the while not feeling the need to make it too complicated. The design itself would serve as the baseline for future Miku designs, and the elements chosen are simple, but perfectly show what they wanted for the character. Many of the elements, such as her armbands and the details on her skirt, are actually inspired by Yamaha's synthesizer equipment, which I think is a cool touch that adds a lot of detail without complicating the design too much. The only problem I have with this is the gray shirt, which I think should have been white instead. I don't know, maybe I just don't like gray that much in general. I've also never liked the ribbon coming out from under her skirt. It breaks the design symmetry, and kinda sticks out like a sore thumb. Other than that, he did an amazing job not only designing this outfit, but Miku herself. He has 2 books regarding Miku illustration: Unofficial Hatsune Mix, a fun manga with all of the Piappo characters and silly scenarios, with some full official art included, and Miku Life, which focuses on only official art, with a lot more of his recent works, which I really want to get someday. I believe it is out of print sadly. I'll be putting this in an A tier. It's iconic, don't get me wrong, but there are Miku designs that I think perfect her design a little more. Hatsune Miku Append is not an entirely new voice bank. Rather, it's an expansion of the V2 voice bank, containing multiple new voices: sweet, dark, solid, vivid, soft, and light. Later voice banks would release Append expansions by default, containing the voice bank's original design. This design was illustrated by Masaki Yasai, who created the Figma figure series, and specializes in mecha character design. This is definitely an interesting one, but it's one of my favorite Miku designs in general. They really doubled down on the futuristic aspect here, going for a more cyborg look. Her outfit is less of a uniform and more of a futuristic mecha one-piece suit. Her skirt is replaced with gadgets, I don't really know what those are, and her tie is replaced with a single piece of fabric as part of her suit. This design is definitely not functional looking and is more about show, but for an expansion pack rather than a standalone voice bank, it works perfectly. The entire concept of Append was an experiment, and showing the experimentation through a very robotic, lab creation like Miku works so well. The design itself also works really well with Miku Trance, done by artists like Alpaca P, HSP, and Queen Tears. I only care about this detail since that's mainly what I listen to when I want to listen to Miku. The floating pose with the flowing hair sort of reminds me of a JRPG character in the best way possible, and fits with the space age design. This gets an A tier as well, above V2. It's amazing, but isn't as good at representing a baseline Miku, which is fine. The next design does this way better though. Beginning with Miku V3, all future-based illustrations would be done by Ixima, with some language variations done by other artists. Ixima is known almost exclusively for her work done for the Piappo series. As far as I know, she hasn't really ventured outside of this, though I could be wrong. Miku V3. You know, people still say perfection is impossible, yet here we are. This is, hands down, the best version of Miku ever made in terms of design. The pose takes the iconic hands-down standing stance and suspends it in the air at an angle, which really makes it feel like she's from another world. They didn't change much of the design, and honestly they didn't really need to. The only thing they changed is the twirling hair, which looks beautiful in this case, as well as the remade white shirt, which solved my biggest issue with V2 design. It feels like a very perfectly tuned design for the base Miku, and it's really cool to look through old Ixima artworks for stuff like the Miku headphones and the Sony Xperia Miku edition. Even in general, I think her art style had this very dreamlike feel to it, and reminds me slightly of Io with its very soft and light feel. The lighting gives Miku a radiant, vibrant appearance, and really represents Miku as the world-famous virtual idol she is. Everything about this design is just perfect in my opinion. This gets a definite S tier, no questions. V3 English was Miku's first English voice bank, which was definitely needed. Prior to this, producers, especially in the West, would struggle to get the Japanese Miku to sound just right. Japanese is a very unique language in many ways, meaning it was hard to use the sounds of that language to speak English. Miku had been steadily growing in the West, just as she was in Japan, with concerts like Mikunopolis selling out tickets to the point where even Fox 11 LA jumped in to cover the story. This design is done by Zane, who has a very colorfully lit and rendered style that I honestly wish I knew how to recreate. It definitely makes for a very unique style compared to other anime styles, and especially when it comes to Miku. This design rocks. What makes this so much different isn't with any big design changes, but rather with the colorful, extremely vibrant lighting mixed with a more realistic and mature Miku. The glossiness from Ixuma's design is done in a way that feels sort of crystallized. This is most notable on the shirt. I don't even know how to really explain how unique this art style is. It's really unlike anything I've seen before, and I think it's really cool that this was used for an official Miku design. I also really like that they went for a darker background and shading style for Miku, aside from the very bright highlights, compared to Ixuma's light, soft, and dreamy look. The darker background makes this feel more like a rave-style, dark mode Miku, and I'm all for that. This design is amazing, and I absolutely love the way it looks, though I slightly prefer Ixuma's V3 design, so this will get an A above V2 and below append. V4X is the fourth major iteration of Hatsune Miku. While it's not much more than just an updated voice bank, I think this one sounds the best out of all of them. A perfectly balanced Miku. V2 sounded a bit too robotic and was only in Japanese. V3 sounded better but sounded a bit too old for a Miku voice bank. V4X hits that sweet spot, where it has a realistic voice that still sounds like Miku while not being too high or low pitched. It's the only one with 2 language variations, meaning it is easily accessible to anyone. I've even heard that the English voice banks could easily support Romance languages like Spanish and Portuguese, though they aren't officially supported. What about the design? Definitely have some quirks with this one. Let's get the obvious one out of the way. Hair loss! Why bro look like that? Holy crap, I'm so funny! For real though, her hair just looks so wrong and the pigtails are so damn thin. I get it if it's for a song-specific Miku design like Senbon Sakura, or God forbid Rabbit Hole, but this is an official baseline Miku design. It doesn't stand out against any other Vocaloids other than the fact that it's the funny green onion girl. The hair looks like they taped some shiny ribbons to the sides of her head and called it a day. Her armbands look so weird when they're tightly worn rather than loosening up at the ends. They replaced the tie clip with this weird heart symbol that has never caught on because it just looks so out of place. And the hair clips. Why do they do that? Why do they separate the colors into different parts? It overcomplicates things for no reason. The hair clips from previous versions are so iconic, and could easily be used as a simple brand element on their own. But these are impractical, look stupid, and make no sense. It really sucks that the best Miku voice bank got such a tacky design. They did a much better job for Megarine Luca V4X. This one's getting a D tier. It just looks tacky in certain areas, and it's just bland all around. Crypton had been interesting in creating a voice bank for simplified Chinese, or Mandarin, for a while. After a few small online teasers, the voice bank was silently revealed in a Mandarin Miku song at the Banana IP Galaxy concert in Shanghai. I don't know what this concert even is, but it was the first time Miku was heard natively speaking Mandarin. A few months later, Miku V4X Chinese was released, with artwork provided by Maminamoto, who has done some other work for Hatsune Miku and some art for various anime. This design is definitely better than the base V4X design. It feels a bit like a mix of V3 and V4. It takes the shiny, glossy shading of V3, mixed with the trend of changing up some elements like in V4. It tries to fix some of the problems with the original V4X design. Weirdly enough though, it's done by changing the elements again, instead of just going back to the classic V2 and V3 parts. The colors on the hair clips are single again, but they're circular for some reason, which I kinda don't like. It removes that angular impact that the original clips have on the silhouette, which is important for characters that are this famous. The high heels are slightly different, but I kinda like the curvy ends on the top of them. The best parts of the Mandarin design is that they opened up the arm sleeves again, and made her twin tails more even. I would have liked them to look a bit less spaced out, but this is definitely better. This design will get a B tier. It does the job, but I simply just prefer other designs more. Vocaloid 5 was released in 2018. Many people liked the software for its vast array of new features, and they wanted a Miku voice bank for it. Crypton decided to go on a bit of an ego trip, however, claiming that Yamaha was being too restrictive with the new software or something. Honestly, I don't know what actually happened, and there's probably better resources for finding this out. Basically, because of some corporate licensing BS, Crypton created Piapro Studio, essentially a knockoff of Vocaloid where they would be free to release and make their own rules for the Crypton characters. The first voice bank released was a new voice bank for Hatsune Miku, who would have guessed. This one was called Hatsune Miku NT, and it sounds miserable. Somebody pass her some tissues, my god! Well, maybe the design will save us. What the hell am I looking at? Look how they massacred my Miku! I've heard some people like this design, and that's great. But this is my video and I'm allowed to complain. Why is everything so twirly and circular? It looks so off-putting. This design would fit more for something like Gumi, who has a lot more curved and circular design elements. But this is Hatsune Miku, and she's known for her simplistic angle design. This just feels so wrong. Again, this could work really well for a song-specific Miku, but again, this is a base Miku design. It's supposed to represent that. The frilliness of this outfit doesn't suit this purpose at all. The skirt has twirly ends, the ends on the shirt have twirly ends, the armbands have armbands inside of them that are twirly, and they even kept the circular hair clips. Why on earth would they do that? The tie is also replaced with a few measly ribbons, as if she lost her tie and borrowed one from Kagamine Lin. The shading is technically good, but it just feels so bland compared to Miku V3. You could say, oh well, you need to look past the V3 nostalgia. Well, let me tell you, I became a Miku fan a few months after NT was already released. Prior to this, I didn't even know who Hatsune Miku was, so there are definitely no nostalgia goggles being used. I'm gonna be honest, in my opinion, this is the worst Miku design ever conceived. Absolute F tier. The only thing that's worse is the design for that Rabbit Girl song that really just does not sound that good. Come on guys, this is so overhyped. There are two brand new Miku voicebanks in development. Hatsune Miku NT V2 is an update to the NT voicebank. That might sound better or worse. I don't know, I have little hopes for NT and Piapro Studio in general, since the program basically has nothing. To use NT, you have to use Piapro Studio NT exclusively, which isn't compatible with any other Vocaloids at all. Hatsune Miku V6 AI answers fan demands for Miku to return to Vocaloid with a Vocaloid 6 voicebank, including some AI enhancement technology, akin to that of Synth V Teto. It's been a while though, so to hold fans over in the meantime, or because they just felt like it, Crypton released a Super Pack. It's simply a software bundle containing enhanced versions of the newest Japanese Vocaloid voicebanks for the Piapro cast. Consider it Crypton and Yamaha's Sonic Jam, if you will, enhancing old stuff and bundling it together. The design is pretty good. They fixed virtually all of the problems I had with the V4X designs by mostly reverting to a V3 design. Sadly, the tie is still just a ribbon sort of thing, but the tie clips came back, so that's nice. The hair definitely looks more like what I'd expect from the base Miku design. The hair clips were reverted back to a single object, but are only pink this time. I don't actually have a problem with this detail. It keeps basically the same angular design as V2 and V3. I don't have much to say about the design on its own, since it looks much less detailed than previous Miku designs. For this case, I think it's fine, however. This is for the Super Pack, where she's going to be shown with all the other characters. It doesn't stand out too much, and that's definitely preferred in this case scenario. I don't have a whole lot to say for this one. It's your run-of-the-mill Miku, C tier. Well, that was unremarkable, and I really do not want to end this video off on a bad note. So I won't. Let's talk about one of my favorite Miku designs ever made. Unlike the other designs we talked about, this was never made for a voicebank or a specific Crypton product. This design was made to celebrate Miku's 10th anniversary, and I believe it was illustrated originally by K, though I could be wrong. It's even featured as a module in some later Project Diva games. Rest in peace, by the way. I don't even know how to fully describe how much I love this design. They made such an extravagant design, even though they technically didn't change any major elements on her outfit. That's not only impressive, but it makes Miku's default outfit stand out amongst so many other designs. Almost everything has a rainbow highlight to it. The boots, the shirt, the skirt, and the ribbon. They could have easily done this with the hair too, but I'm glad they did it. It preserves one of the main parts of her identity. That said, they found a way to incorporate rainbow into her twin tails, with some smaller rainbow strands. Many elements, such as the skirt ends and her tie, glow to show off how special of an occasion this was. To make it all the more grand, they even added giant rainbow ribbons in the form of a giant bow tie. There are a ton of great, unique, and complex Miku designs for concerts like Magical Mirai and such. The thing with those designs is that they retain almost none of the original design. That's not a bad thing, it makes the design feel different and completely unique. But this design shows that a little can go a long way. It always felt less like a special Miku design and more like a Mega Hatsune Miku, at least to me. Almost like if Miku somehow received a Mega Evolution or something. Legend CA hype, by the way. S tier above everything, nothing beats this. Now I think that's a better way to end things off, so I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for watching this excuse for me to talk about Miku again, and take care. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go battle a giant enemy spider in my new Shinkali on H5.